Apes, 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 apes. Welcome, everyone. This is actually, even though it says 19, this is actually our 20th episode of the Spoiler Room, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend our 20th episode than with this fine group of individuals as we talk the latest Apes movie that came out this past weekend, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And let's go right down the line and introduce ourselves. Colin, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Glad you could join us. And always the lovely Dawn is in the house. How are you tonight, Dawn?
Just fabulous, thank you.
Fantastic. The one and only big friggin' deal, Glenn, is in the house. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, good to hear. And we are joined with a newcomer to the spoiler room, Mr. Andrew Shearer. I don't think we've had you on before, have we, or one time before?
No, never.
No.
This might bust my cherry on this one. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking me on.
You bet. We're glad to have you along. Andrew Shears from Gonzorific Films, and then, of course, Mr. Tiger Power himself, man who just had a birthday, Tony Estrada. How you doing today, sir?
I am doing really good. 20 years old right here, and it's funny considering this is the 20th episode.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know what would you call it. Anyway, coincidence.
Milestone.
There you go.
Yeah,
a milestone. There you go. So
it's your golden episode.
It's the golden episode, yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now it's taken off at the box office, and it's very popular and gotten really decent critical reviews, and so I wanted to talk about it tonight because I know everybody would have an opinion about it. If you want to know what the summary of Planet of the Apes is, well, basically it's 10 years later after Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and the simian virus, has taken out pretty much most of the human population. There's appears to be groups of survivors here and there, but one group that has survived and thrived is the groups of apes that are out there that were led by our friend Caesar out of the experimental labs and into the woods, and they've grown to quite a tribe, and they've pretty well lived apart from the humans until one fateful day they end up crossing paths with the humans, and we see the situation escalates from there as they try to maintain peace between these two species, but inevitably it's going to meet to a very nasty confrontation. So let's start right down the line and just get initial impressions. Colin, when you saw Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and it got done, did it surprise you?
Yes, I mean, it looked really good to me from the trailers, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite as good or as enjoyed as much as I did after I got out of the movie.
Definitely agree. Dawn, what about you? Were you surprised that you actually enjoyed the film as much as you did?
A little. I was surprised that I enjoyed it. I figured I would enjoy it. I was figuring it was going to be a popcorn movie, you know, nothing real deep. But I was a little surprised that I did end up liking it as much as I did, especially because one of my initial opinions going into the movie was, really? So I'll save the really.
Yes. Later. And then we have Glenn. Glenn, did you enjoy the film at least when it was done?
I did enjoy it. I just can't think at all when it comes to this movie. the more I think, the angrier I get at stuff.
Ah, okay. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing some of those thoughts. And Andrew, were you surprised at the film after you got done?
I love movies, and I love the Planet of the Apes movies, so I would have probably been more surprised if I didn't like it, really.
Sure. And Tony, what about you, sir? Were you surprised at the end of the film?
Like my initial reaction to it,
yeah.
Or
how much you enjoyed it or not enjoyed it?
Well, I came into the film not excited like a lot of people are, but I was like really interested in it. So like, okay, this has my attention. But like, I really enjoyed Rise of the Planet of the Apes, so I wasn't sure how this movie was going to hold up to that. But by the time the film ended, I ended up going like, wow, like my mind was just blown away because of how great the film is, and in my opinion, it's better than Rise.
I'll have to agree with you. When I got done with the film, I felt that it was a well thought out film. And so I guess the first question of the night was for everyone is, we look at, and I'm going to bring it up, now everybody's going to cringe, Transformers 4. And Transformers 4 felt like they had a grand special effects, and then they wrote a story around the special effects. Would you say that Apes is one of those where it's trying to show off the effects, or did they actually come up with a story and then they're using the effects as a tool to tell that story? Because there is a difference if you watch enough of these. Which would you say, Glenn, it was? Did they just come up with the apes to show off the effects, or do you think that they did come up with the story first and that they weren't trying to show off the effects, they just had the effects shots that they needed to tell the story?
I think it's a little of both.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the basic premise of the story was established, what? I mean, how many years ago? 40 plus years ago.
Sure.
When you had the first Planet of the Apes movies. I mean, your basic premise is already there, and this is just playing off of that, then playing off the movie from a few years ago. So, I mean, I think some of it was effects for the sake of effects, but not to a detrimental level where it detracts from what they're trying to tell.
Sure.
It's not like what's his? I can't remember his name. I dislike him so much.
Michael Bay?
Avatar guy.
Oh, James Cameron.
James Cameron, where it's just how pretty can we make this, and who cares what the story is, as long as everything just makes you go, ooh. I want to watch a movie. I don't want to watch fireworks, and this was more of a movie than fireworks.
All right, and would you agree with that, Colin, that Apes was more than just a special effects spectacle like some of our popcorn films of the past?
Definitely. I mean, this was a movie that I felt like the CGI, I mean, the way that apes looked actually looked like you were watching this group of monkeys, doing all these things, not just, oh, look at all this pretty stuff. There's no story. You felt a connection to the characters. You felt for Caesar and the monkeys and what they were going through. You even felt for Koba and, people that weren't exactly the nicest of characters, unlike Transformers, where every second I just want to get out of there.
Don, how about you? Special effects, did you feel they were the spectacle or were just used part as the story?
I thought they were. I didn't think they went overboard as far as being used just for spectacle. I thought that they were used appropriately. Obviously some places were gratuitous because you can't avoid it, but for the most part, I didn't think it was overdone, and I didn't get motion sick, which is a good sign.
Oh, that's a good sign. Did you see it in the 2D or the 3D?
I saw it in the 2D, but still sometimes.
Sure. And Andrew, sure. What about you, sir? Did you feel that it was a spectacle?
Well, no, they were actually, I felt kind of conservative with it because, look at some of the other ones like X-Men and Spider-Man, and I didn't see Transformers, but just based on having seen the other ones, you oftentimes with the CG scenes, you have these really computery camera movements that go along with it, like, cinematography, but it's really just an animator taking hold of the camera. They didn't really do that. They kept a lot of static shots the way that they shoot Gollum in the Lord of the Rings movies, and so it added believability to the motion capture stuff. And I don't know for sure, but I don't think the Transformer robots are motion capture performances. I think they're just a cartoon. So that's a big difference when you're talking about CG.
Oh, definitely. What about you, Tony? Would you agree?
I did. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, would you agree that the special effects, they were decent, and they weren't used too much to wow you? Maybe a little, but...
No, I really do think that this movie attempted at a storyline rather than being all, oh, look, kids, look at that. Those are monkeys. Look how pretty they are. I really do.
Look at the pretty monkey.
Yeah, but I pretty much agree with what everyone just said. I really do think that the movie has more of a story. Obviously, it's more of a character-driven film with some action pieces into it, and like the visual effects. Of course, it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, so you can't have a movie called that without the apes. The apes are obviously there to tell the story, not to just wow you. Like the visual effects, they're spectacular. Like they blew me away, and the fact that it takes people to motion capture that is amazing. But I mean, like, yeah, it really is just to tell the story overall, not to just wow you. So you can really tell that there was a lot of heart, there was a lot of passion in the film. So yeah, definitely more story, and I think it succeeded in every way.
Did it surprise anyone, and I'll just open this up to anyone can chime in, did it surprise anyone how much it actually focused, and I know it's called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, but just how much it focused on the apes versus the humans? I mean, the humans little bit felt almost like a side note, and in all honesty, I could have watched probably more apes than humans. But anyway, anyone, go ahead, chime in. Do you what do you think about that with the humans kind of really taking a side line to the apes in this movie?
I think it
Seriously,
was like a. Oh, go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
I was going to say, based on the the original franchise, I was surprised that there was even that much emphasis on the humans.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the whole believability of this story would hinge on whether or not the audience would side with those characters or sympathize with those characters. So it shows a real confidence in their in those effects on the part of the filmmakers, because they'd have been dead in the water with this story, because it's like scene after scene. If you were looking at the script pages, going like no human here, no human here, no human here. And the old series, as it went on, the films just kept getting cheaper and cheaper because people weren't coming to them, and so they weren't even going to try to do anything like that. But they still had a lot of stuff that was very balanced between a lot of scenes with a lot of apes in them. So it was more of a surprise at just how much I wasn't thinking about the fact they were apes at all, and just taking them as characters. That was the surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add, I think a big part of that is going back to the CG, the amount of expression the apes had.
Yeah, like the red eyes when they were upset and stuff. Or the red under the eye.
I mean, you could see what mood they were in without even having to hear them talk, just by the way that their face looked and their body posture.
Yeah.
I mean that made them more characters than just a CG creation.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it almost felt like the apes were more deeper of characters than the humans. Would you say that's true, Colin?
It was crazy.
It was. I almost sat there and go, I'll just watch apes sign at each other and live their lives in the woods for 2 hours. I'll just watch
wasn't it like the first 10 or 15 minutes was all in ape sign? There was no like human speech at all.
Just
It felt like it.
Yeah, it was. It was the opening scene where they're doing the hunt, and that had that scene from the trailer. And actually, it was the scene that I thought, out of all the special effects they had, probably looked the worst. was when they were chasing the deer through the woods.
Yeah, boy, that had to have been a challenge, though, because of
I imagine it.
having to do them in a wet environment in the rain and stuff. I mean, just having to animate hair, let alone hair that's wet. I mean, that must have been really tough to do.
I heard it took 2 weeks.
You could definitely tell the deer was all CGI-ish, but it's not like anything that noticeable.
What was that?
The bear really threw me.
Oh, the bear?
That took 2 weeks for the animators to actually do all the CGI per monkey.
Oh God!
But no, after seeing Transformers and everything, it's like it was nice that the actual characters that are advertised were actually really focused on.
Yeah.
And, it's nice.
It's an apes movie that actually is about apes.
Exactly. It's a concept. Michael Bay, take notes.
And it's all like the movie is apes, so that
Yeah.
this movie, yeah, has the humans, but does a great job of showing you enough apes for it to be called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Sure.
And I mean, and I know some people criticize how the human aspect could have been better. It's Godzilla 2014, pretty much in that sense. But I really thought the human aspect was just as strong as the apes. Yes, it's more fun to see the apes, but to be honest, if it weren't for the human aspect and how Caesar was starting to trust Jason Clarke's character as the movie's progressing, I probably wouldn't love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes as much because it wasn't just the ape side, but it was the human side that just fully 100% just sold me on the film.
Mm-hmm. What were you saying, Glenn, about the bear?
Oh, the bear in that scene, in the hunt scene?
Yeah.
Compared to everything else in there, it's like they just said, "Oh, we forgot to do the bear." Well, I've got a Skyrim mod. We can just throw that in there, and there's a bear from Skyrim.
I thought the baby monkey wasn't that great either.
Which
what?
one?
Baby.
Oh, the baby monkey.
Yeah.
I guess they couldn't get a mocap. Nobody wanted to let their baby be motion captured, so you know.
Don't know why. But getting to what Tony said about the human aspect, the one thing I liked, and I hope that other people caught it as well, was I thought they did a decent enough parallelism between the two tribes to where you had very similar characters in both groups. Do you think that's what they were going for? I mean, because here you have Caesar and his human counterpart, and they're just trying to keep people calm, and then you got Koba, and you got the guy who fired the first shot at the apes when he saw them. It was pretty evident, I think, that they were trying to go for that parallelism between the apes and the humans. Do you think? In
terms of leadership between Caesar and Jason Clarke's character, I could definitely see that because on both of their sides, all they're trying to do is to hopefully just try to find peace and protect their kind. So I really do see a parallelism in terms of both of the groups.
See, I actually think that while there is a little bit, I think the humans were almost cardboard cutout compared to the apes. I think the apes you had there just seemed to be a lot more going on with them. I think you got more actual feeling from the apes than you did from the humans. It's just the humans you have good guy who wants peace. You have leader who wants to protect his people. You got pissed off guy. It's like and,
I mean,
with Koba, he's pissed off, but they show lots of the reasons, when he's like,
why
human work, and when you get a lot more emotion of him just than I hate those damn apes. I'm gonna sneak a gun in anyways.
Well, we're kind of working toward the humans just becoming savages, in this series. I mean, that's kind of the next step for them. This is their last hope of their civilization, human civilization, is basically gone. So I would wager the next time we see them, they're going to be eating their own poop and throwing, rattling the cage. They're almost done with as far as characters in these movies are concerned.
Well, did anyone also kind of get the feeling that we may not have exactly the brightest group of humans together that have survived this
you think?
flu?
They're just immune to the virus. They're not exactly survivalists.
The virus was not selective as far as IQ goes.
No.
No.
Colin, would you say that the apes were definitely smarter than the humans?
Oh yeah, But what's new though? What's new, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of the series, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, which actually leads me to I asked everyone if they could, and they didn't have to, but if you had one question that you could present to the group about the film, and I want to start with Dawn's because I know Dawn's is going to be interesting, and it leads right into us talking about the dumb humans versus the smart apes. Dawn, go ahead. Why don't you present the one thing you noticed in your question, basically observation for the group to talk about?
Okay, so right away at the beginning of the movie, I was decided it was already going to be a popcorn movie. And the humans are going to look for the hydroelectric place to get that started because it's their only hope of having electricity to regain human society. And my first thought is, really? In the entire greater San Francisco area, there is nobody who's ever heard of solar power?
Well, not
I mean,
if San Francisco was known as like a city with hippies and stuff like that who care about. Oh wait.
They were all against vaccination. So
but
they died first.
once I got over that and realized, okay, so we're dealing with a group of stupid people who've never heard of solar power. Okay, now I can move on. So that was really San Francisco. Solar power. There has to be at least a house that runs on solar power somewhere in San Francisco. But they have iPads.
But they do have
Gary
iPads.
Oldman was using an iPad.
Gary Oldman was using an iPad, yes.
Well, and they obviously didn't do research on the San Francisco area because one of the largest manufacturers of solar panels is based out of San Francisco.
Were they really hiding out in the Rice-A-Roni factory?
Yeah. What about Colin? You or Tony? What do you think? You think having that power plant as the plot point, without them looking for alternative power sources, was that a little far-fetched for you guys?
No, to be honest, not really. Like, I don't know, maybe I was just so into the movie, into the storyline, the characters, that I probably didn't pick apart those things. So to me, it's just like, no big deal.
What about you, Colin?
I think it works well enough to where it's like, okay, that makes sense, and it's not super crazy, though. That would have been kind of funny to see them try to do solar power energy and have the monkeys just watch them thinking they're insane. It's like, sun energy? Okay.
At least the film didn't end with apes and humans singing a musical together.
Why can't we be friends?
Why can't we be friends?
Here's a twist.
Gosh.
They go to look for solar power energy. They find transforming metal and find diamonds.
Oh wow! The transforming metals
That's
transforming metals guarded by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There you go. We've linked all our popcorn films together.
Hey, I just have to ask this. How would you guys feel about a Planet of the Apes Transformers crossover?
Oh God! Don't even
I feel
go
like
there,
the apes
man.
would actually win. If Michael Bay's directing Transformers, the apes would take them down.
Well, back to Dawn's thing. That's actually something that came up today. I was talking to a friend of mine who saw it Friday, and I had the same problem with it. It's like, really, that's the only. I guess they just had to have it in there for them to have some kind of conflict. And my friend's
Exactly.
he's like, well, yeah. I mean, can you think one of the reasons why they have to go up there? I'm like, it's been how long since everything fell apart? Maybe they're going up there for food.
Yeah. Fuel.
Yep.
There was a gas station. You never know that fuel.
My first thought would have been they're going up there because what is there to hunt in the city?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's slowly being reclaimed, but most going up there to hunt. But
Or looking for other survivors.
it serves its purpose, and this is one of the things that I have to not think about.
Right.
Is that I have to take the movie as a popcorn flick, where yes, they're still doing some of the whole socio commentary type stuff, but it's like to do a correlation to another movie that's out right now is Snowpiercer.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to focus on what's actually happening, there's way too many plot holes.
Yeah.
This movie has
Mm-hmm.
it's a Swiss cheese film when it comes to plot holes, and you have to take that and say, I'm gonna eat cheese later. And right now I'm gonna eat popcorn.
Well, I don't think. I guess I can see the plot holes. For me, though, I will say that I think they didn't cut as many corners as you might see in a popcorn effects film like this with the story. I mean, let's face it, they really could have, as much as you like you said, Don, with the solar power and that, there are moments in this film where you could see them actually going a very even simpler lowest common denomination route, and they at least went up a little bit in the denominator to where they didn't go quite so lazy with it. I mean,
They
especially
did
near the
try, just not quite hard enough.
Right. No, I mean, you can tell they did try. They tried harder than I would think most of your summer blockbuster films like this. They tried to give a more complete, fleshed out story than going for the lowest common denominator of, okay, apes good, humans bad, fight. I mean, they tried to put a little more meat in there. Not a lot, but they did put some. Like, especially at the end. This is a spoiler, and folks. Well, we spoil films. At the end, I will say it surprised me that they actually had Oldman pull the trigger on the bombs with the buddies there. I thought for sure they were going to do some silly thing of, the guy, our hero with the gun, getting tackled or something. I thought there's a number of different ways they could have gone that route, and instead, no, he just pulls the trigger and blows them all, blows each other up. And I thought that was a little bit of a surprise with the character and that situation, because I've seen other films where we've gone a different route with it. We could have stretched it out for another 5 minutes before someone pulls the trigger for blowing up the explosives. Do you feel that way, that maybe they were trying at least to give a little more solid of a film than go for the lowest common denominator like a lot of summer blockbuster films do? What do you think, Colin? Do you think they tried to bring a little bit more elevation to the story than just going for the cheap seats?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they knew that this was something. This is a franchise that it's been around for so many years, and it's gone through so much. It's survived Tim Burton. It's gone through a lot of stuff, and I think that they wanted to make a good story. They're like, okay, we don't want to be Transformers Age of Extinction, guys. That's
right.
We don't want to be that. As long as we're not that, we're good. And, I did, yeah, I mean, Gary Oldman's character and everything, I liked how, it wasn't necessarily he was super evil. He legitimately thought what he was doing was right versus, just, oh, I'm bad to be bad. And so it was interesting to see how they tried to take a story to the next level.
What about anyone else want to chime in? Do you think the story is at least a little bit above what your normal blockbuster storyline, what it goes for?
Yeah, I definitely agree that the effort was put into the story 100%. And usually when there's little plot holes, I always think about it this way. It's all like when you try to put so much effort into a script, and with those many pages of dialogue and all that stuff, it's kind of hard to fully 100% connect all the holes that it has. So as long as the holes aren't noticeable, like me, I didn't notice any plot holes, to be honest. So
Sure.
I'm sure as long as you write very well, you take your time, and you just make sure you have a very great script, I think that's all that really matters.
Well, that's actually a point we can bring up to our two filmmakers, Glenn and Andrew. Let's start with Andrew. Do you think that sometimes the plot holes show up because of either lack of time or resources, or where they maybe tried to do more with it, but they had to cut things out?
Well, I mean, when you're writing a script, you have what you call the controlling idea, and you've got what you want to say with it ultimately, like what is your point, and everything that happens from A to B to C is just kind of with that thing in mind. Think about it. When I was learning to drive a car, I had this Oldsmobile, and it had this giant hood ornament in the front. And my dad was like, "Okay, keep that thing aimed right here in the corner of the road, and you'll stay straight. You'll stay in your lane." And I kind of think about that still when I write scripts. I'm like, "Okay, this is my hood ornament. My controlling ideas are as long as I keep aimed this way, I'm not going to veer off and crash." So there are things that are the main point, and then there are things that just kind of taper off, and you're like, all right, if I focus too much on this this water power thing and put too much detail and effort into it, these guys are going to fly off in this other direction. I need to. Who cares, really? Ultimately, this is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, not Dawn of the Power Plant. I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, if you got them all concerned about that, you screwed up with the apes. Go back, tear it up, start over.
What about you, Glenn? Anything to add about plot holes working their way into your script because of time or restraint or just for the sake of entertainment?
I mean, I don't think my movies have a ton of plot holes because my movies aren't long enough for much of a plot to develop. So that might be why I do shorts. But I can kind of see what Andrew's talking about in that you've got something you're focusing on, and you can only focus on so much.
Right.
You've got a limited time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was speaking as a, having made a feature. I mean, our first cut without having shot Act 3 yet was 2.5 hours, and it's because I lost myself in details and backstory and each character's story, and we shot 8 hours worth of stuff, and we're like, at a certain moment we started cutting, we're like, wait a second here, we need to. The focus got to be somewhere. We've got to give these people a direction to go in, and other things just sort of fall off. And somebody watching it would go like, "Wait a minute, what happened? What about photos?" Like, whoa, dude, come on, did I lose you? I lost you. I screwed up the main point because this guy's thinking about the refrigerator. Should have never put in that thing about the refrigerator. Damn it. Keep it simple.
Oh, right. So, Colin, were you able to come up with a question for the group about the film at all, or something you wanted us possibly to talk about?
What I was trying to think about, and this is kind of a weird question, is why do you think that it's called, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? Why do you think they try to focus mainly on chimpanzees and not have, more of the other types of monkeys? Do you think it's because chimpanzees are primarily closer related to us than other monkeys, or what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's because when they were doing the experimentations on the monkeys in the previous movie, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, they were primarily focusing on the chimpanzees and experimenting on the chimpanzees because they're closer to humans. Therefore, it was natural progression in the story.
What about the rest of you guys? You think that's the case, or?
Yeah, I agree because
I agree with what Don said, honestly.
Yeah, they have usually traditionally in the Apes movies the gorillas are the warlike ones, so they're kind of a more of a broad stroke character group, and then the orangutans are kind of the servant ones or whatever, or the scientist ones. They're kind of the techies, and then you've got the chimps are always kind of like the liberals, They're kind of like. or not if the liberals, just the more organized ones. It's always the focus has always been on the chimp, and I don't know if that just started because that makeup was easier to talk through, but for some reason that was the way it kind of always panned out in the series. I think they were just kind of sticking to the traditions of Planet of the Apes movies by doing that.
Sure.
And I'd actually the actual gorillas in this one, for the most part, were not like they were in the originals, where they were, the big warrior type. No. If you look at some of the major fight scenes, I mean, the one where they're storming the city, the gorilla's actually the one pulling people out of the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting little change they did there, where the gorillas were not the go kill them all. There was more the chimps than anyone else. That was all.
Well, they blew the gorilla wad in Rise of the Planet of the Apes with that helicopter scene.
Yeah.
I mean,
No kidding.
That guy. That hooked it up, right? That part was crazy, and then he's dying, and oh man, I was like, what?
The question is, where's King Kong in all this?
Where's King Kong?
He took down the helicopter, so he got to retire.
Yeah, he killed the last helicopter of the human race.
That was awesome, man. You remember? That was awesome.
Yeah, that was probably the most epic scene.
That was an epic scene. But you're right.
I would love to see King Kong just jump out of nowhere and stomp on Cobra.
You are right, though. The gorillas in this one, and you know what? That's what I liked how they portrayed it. Is you got different levels of apes with their different education, but they didn't exactly portray the gorillas like they could have as kind of your bigger, kind of dumb
The
warrior
military
monkey.
guys, yeah.
Yeah, they actually kind of, for what screen time they had, which I think they should have had more. They actually, I mean, they were guard guys, but they actually portrayed them, I think, with at least more intelligence than I expected out of what you would see out of your gorilla.
Yeah. I mean,
I,
if they had been more like the old ones, I mean, how do you sign bro, do you even lift?
yeah.
How do you sign that? 'Cause that'd be more like
Maybe it was guerrilla activist groups. They didn't want to be painted in a bad light.
Well, that, and I think okay, getting into the original franchise with their strong sociopolitical emphasis on totalitarianism and racism, classism, and segregation. I think that in the new movies they really moved away from that and started focusing on the modern hot topics, like
Guns.
the vaccination issues and animal rights and other things that are more modern, because I think that, quite frankly, I think that society believes we've moved away from racism and classism, and yet we haven't.
No, but you're right. The film did feel a little bit, the tribe, at least of the apes, didn't quite feel so segregated as it did in the older ones.
Yes.
There wasn't exactly a class system in it. Now, we might see that later on with the events of this film affecting what has happened. You might see that later in the next films, but it did feel like they were more like just one tribe, all trying to just help each other out in this one versus a different class system among the apes and among the humans too. So it was basically more just species against species, I think, as far as statement there. But yeah, and there was a statement on guns as well.
Oh yeah.
On there definitely, but yeah, I mean, the chimpanzees though usually are associated more as humans, and I think they picked that one with the franchise, but two, even though you're dealing with apes, I think they go that route because they do look similar to humans. Out of all the apes, they're quite similar, and so it's a little bit easier for people to grasp maybe the emotions and things and attach themselves to the chimpanzee. Much like a lot of audiences, if you look at a completely alien film in sci-fi and you have your main character as an alien who doesn't have the normal expressions, no matter how good you write that character, I think, and I might be wrong, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but I think you're going to lose some of your audience. Your audience isn't going to connect just for the sheer sake of it's too alien and not quite human enough for them to connect. Whereas when you pick chimpanzees, very human-like, a lot easier for your audience to connect maybe or accept the way those characters are than, say, maybe having the entire tribe of orangutans, which looked a lot more like
a
they
bicycle
do.
seat, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, a great question, Colin. Definitely, I think they went that route partly because to stay with the franchise, and partly because it does help your audience connect a little bit better with your characters that you're trying to sell, and the fact that you're going to have subtitles in your film. And my God, people can't read, movies. Oh, can't have that.
I just came up with the theory about what you guys are saying. I think the next film, after between the events of this film and the next film, there probably will be more of the class system because they're getting ready to basically go into battle now.
Right.
And so that will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, be interesting. What are we going to get? War of the Planet of the Apes?
or Battle of the Planet of the Apes.
Battle of the Planet of the Apes. There you go. And what about you, Tony? Did you have a question for the group then today?
Honestly, I'm still trying to think of one.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Andrew, what about you, sir? Did you have anything specific in the movie you maybe want to talk about, or a question?
Oh, sure. Being a fan of the Apes franchise, I when they called Rise of the Planet of the Apes reboot, I was like, well, So that other stuff didn't happen now, or but I understood why they wanted to do that. So first I was like, well, it's prequel, but it's also starting way before. And I did notice that they Rise of the Planet of the Apes did still took some stuff from Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. So really, I feel like Rise and Dawn are kind of like the 4 and 5 of the other series, and I think no more is that evident than the stuff with Caesar, Koba, and Caesar's son in Dawn kind of mirrored some of the events in Battle of the Planet of the Apes. I want to know if anybody else picked up on some of that stuff, because there are some things that are like almost directly taken, scenes, almost exact scenes are directly taken from it.
Absolutely. I especially like the what was the line he said where it said was it to Koba where you belong in a cage.
Yeah.
And there's that scene in the one movie where the general looks and he sees the gorilla in the cage.
Yep.
And I'm like, and just little things I picked up on that. Yeah, I think they were kind of nods to the hey, there was shit before this.
Yeah, it was very cool. And at one point in battle, Caesar's son overhears Aldo, which is kind of the Koba analog in the new one, planning to do the takeover stuff. And when he hears him, and Aldo sees him and he cuts him out of the tree, Caesar's son falls and eventually dies, but before he dies, he lets Caesar know that human didn't do this to me, it was Ape that did it. And he's lying there on his deathbed, and on the Planet of the Apes, there's Caesar laying there telling him what happened, just in case he doesn't live. Of course he does, and his son's standing there. But it was a neat little mirror of that, and I thought it was really cool. So they're not. I just want to know if any of the ape nerds noticed that.
Anyone else familiar enough with the series?
As long as there was one of you, that's fine.
I liked what they did with the orangutan. I don't remember a whole lot from the original series, but I thought they handled Maurice's character very well.
It looked great too.
Similar to the Maurice character in the original series, because I always liked him the best. In all honesty, I always liked the orangutans.
Yeah.
And I thought it had a really great little sweet scene between Maurice and our hero's kid. And I really liked that scene with the book, and that
he was reading Black Hole. That's a pretty awesome book.
I know. I got that. The Black Hole.
It's like, dude, don't let him read that one. Not that one. That's gonna mess up the whole ape civilization.
Yeah, I gotta agree. The orangutan was one of the best parts about the film.
I love the sounds that he made. They sound so cool.
He looked so realistic. There's the part where he's kind of in the foreground, out of focus, and you see some other action, like he's observing stuff. And man, the fur, I was just like, dude, I can't stand CGI like on principle. You know what I mean? I'm just one of those old school people. So for me to have to go, damn, that's good. It sucks. But it was really good because a lot of people hate the Tim Burton one, but the makeup of I'll throw that on just to watch all that Rick Baker makeup, man.
Oh yeah,
you watch and you're like, damn. I know people hate this movie, but damn, the makeups are great. And on the Blu-ray, the Blu-ray doesn't even have the special features that 2-disc DVD set did, so you can tell that movie's just they're really wanting to bury it, but that's not fair because that's the best thing about that movie is those makeup effects. They should not even have the movie. It should just be the making of on that Blu-ray.
That was a lot more interesting, that's for sure. But I really enjoyed the Maurice character. I wanted to actually see more Maurice. I'm hoping maybe in the next one we get a little bit more, and I think you will.
Maybe he'll be the space cowboy. Some people will call him that anyway. Or Gangster of Love.
Gangster of Love, yeah. Thanks.
We'll just call him Maurice.
We'll just, Maurice.
Oh, dear me.
Call him Big Ben.
So, okay, and anybody else want to chime in with Andrew, if they're familiar enough with the series, they see any other parallels? I'll say the music. I thought the music. I know some people had complaints about some people had complaints about the music, but to me, I thought it really harkened back to the original Apes score. Parts of it, when they just had apes, like when they're when they're first approaching the human camp, the very first time where they're crawling up onto the buildings and everything, the music score for that really felt like he was giving a little nod to the original score.
Yes.
You know, it definitely kind of had that feel, and I liked it because it gave it a little more primitive feel than your modern soundtrack would maybe give it. So the fact that they went a little more simple with some of the score on it, I thought was really a nice touch. Glenn, what about you, sir? You have a question or a scene or something you'd like us to talk about? He pulls out a whole list.
How many bullets does a gun hold? No.
All of them. Especially if you're John Woo.
Yeah.
Yes, John Woo. Reload when convenient, you know.
See, a lot of my questions, it's nitpicky stuff on just things the way that things happen, but an actual like real question that's actually contributes to the conversation other than just an old man bitching.
Thanks, Glenn.
You know,
Hey, Mark, I have a question.
it was one of my biggest gripes was
Hold on, Tony.
the opening scene with the hunt.
Okay.
The apes, with the exception of when Koba saves Caesar's life, the apes seem almost incompetent with spears. That hunt was so disorganized and so poorly executed, and then the end of the movie, they're just firing machine guns with really good accuracy. That was one of the things about I wanted apes just pounding the shit out of people. I didn't want them just all of a sudden just being like, "Hey, we're all good." You know, like Koba maybe having the gun, fine, but I wanted the rest of them just to swing in there with their spears and just their, you know, the fact that chimps are just freakishly strong and just beating people.
So kind of like Ewoks, but pissed off.
Pissed off Ewoks.
if Ewoks had been Wookiees.
Gotcha.
Where, you know, they could actually do that. And I wanted it to be less of just this, you turn it into this massive gunfight.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying.
So some of my questions is this is, it's a nitpicky thing, but it's also something I want to see if anyone else noticed this, is, did anyone else notice that as the movie progressed, the ape population seemed to get bigger and bigger and bigger?
I actually kind of noticed that, to be honest. I'm like, dang, those are twice as more apes than we saw when the movie opened.
I don't know, that initial hunting scene, there seemed to be a really lot of apes. And I was wondering where they disappeared to for a while.
Well, I think, though, if you look at the village, the one shot of the village, I mean, they took over not only one whole side of that the valley, but they're on the other side as well, and they didn't seem to have any concept of personal space yet. So, you know, maybe they're just all laying together, and you just didn't get to see all of them.
I think they got really excited, and a lot of them screwed in the beginning of the movie, and so over time,
Yeah.
They could show that, right?
It was the ape boom, not unlike the baby boom.
I will say the apes. I can see where you're coming from, Glenn, because the whole ape battle at the end, I almost wanted to see them do more like ape ninja type stuff. Not special effects, but here. Hold on, I'm going somewhere with this. They've got the guns and everything, and they're rushing forward against. Here we have now. I know not all of them were smart, but they could follow a leader, and he had smart leaders. But their plan was just to rush forward to the humans, knowing the humans had guns as well, and just hope that they could overpower them by numbers. When up until that point, the apes have been pretty smart about everything they've gone about doing.
When Koba finally does the go up, I was like, finally.
Yeah. It took them a while before they went up, and I'm looking at this going, this is a very large city. They didn't necessarily have to go down the one road. They could have snuck in from all sides, I
So you don't
thought-
think they were just trying to say the guns make you stupid?
Well, I think the filmmakers were going for a statement with the guns. Yes, that,
Oh, definitely.
that they were relying so heavily on guns that they totally tossed.
Well, because
their
I mean,
natural-
if you're talking about commentary, I mean, people are so quick
Sure.
to pick up the gun and aim it at somebody rather than try to solve a problem realistically, you know.
that,
So that
that
I would
that's
give
a
them
very
credit
good
for
point.
maybe that was what they were trying to do there, because you know it's like in Caesar stand they were like, no man, this ain't what I'm talking about. Come on, no, they're like guns. Duh.
Guns. I got a gun. I can shoot.
I mean, yeah, it's like you know, it's like they have that one video game shot of the tank when you're inside the tank, just like, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's
just-
they just lost it at that point.
I just thought that maybe I see where Glenn's come from, where they may have gone a more of their own instinct approach rather than run forward as a whole group. But they could, like Andrew said, they could be going with guns made them stupid. They decided to rely on the guns and figured
Well, they're
that
getting more
was gonna-
human-like. They're losing their apehood, and so
Right.
therefore they're
That's true.
becoming like idiot people. Maybe.
What do you think? What do
Maybe.
you think? Do you think maybe that's what the filmmakers were going for on that, or 'cause, you know, they could have approached it a couple different ways. They are apes. They know how to, you know, attack their prey and more than just run forward at it.
Yeah, I think it was too quick of a progression to the. It's like it's as if they picked the gun up and their brain just fell out of their head. And
Well, Caesar knew, man. He's like, you know, a lot of y'all are gonna die if we have a war, so I don't want you to, because you're just gonna
Sure.
turn into a bunch of monkeys. Here we're civilized, we're progressing. Get out in war, and you're a bunch of Rambo 5s.
You got an opinion on that, Colin, at all?
I think two things. One, I think we probably just missed some big 80s action, you know, training montage, scene with the guns or something. But I do think, though, that there was, you know, like Caesar says, apes follow the strongest person. They don't necessarily think about, you know, who are we going to, you know, who's the smartest, what's the best strategy to go for, and that, yeah, you know, they are going for, you know, guns make you stupid, but I think the whole thing was that Cobra represents just the savagery of mankind and how when man wants to destroy something, they will go for it, not thinking about it realistically and how it's going to impact everybody. And whereas Caesar, he's more of, if you do this, then this will follow. This will happen because of it, and
He
it is
is the
interesting.
smartest one, yeah.
yeah,
That's true.
So,
I do actually have a question.
Oh, and Glenn's got a.
That isn't,
Okay, Glenn.
that isn't entirely a nitpicky thing.
Okay.
And this does not
Maybe
just
we'll
apply to
scroll
this movie.
down
This
more.
applies to a lot of movies.
Okay.
We're going to go negotiate with the apes. But you got to take along the one guy who is most likely to sabotage that negotiation. Because we need him to fix the power plant, even though, as the story proved, they didn't need him at all to fix the power plant.
Yeah, taking the
That's
guy
true.
who shot the ape was probably not the best strategy on the human's part.
The guy who shot the ape and pretty much said in that meeting, I blame the apes for everything. The apes are the problem. The apes are the new Obama. They caused every problem. Thanks, apes.
Oh dear.
Oh
So,
wow!
yeah, it's,
Are you looking for answers here, Glenn?
I
I have to say it's the. I mean,
does anyone else notice this recurring theme of it's like they have to force this
Conflict. They got to
Conf-
force the conflict.
Yeah, but I mean conflict is essence of story, man, and you know it's just
I
like
know,
Sam
but
Raimi says
but
about
it's so telegraphed that you know. And the second they say you're taking this guy, it's like, well, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be him.
yeah, but
Now,
you're
if
also
if they had taken him, and it was something else, I'd be fine with it. But the thing is, there are so many things they could have done without saying, take asshole guy who you know is going to break.
I
And what does he
have to
do?
admit though
He's an asshole
I
and he
wanted
breaks the rules.
it's true, but I wanted to see something bad happen to that guy, so they
Oh,
can't
so
leave
did
him
I.
behind.
oh,
I
yeah,
wanted
you know.
to-
I wanted
I want to
something
see
bad to
something, I
happen
want to see
to
something
him.
bad happen to that guy in every movie he's in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know,
It's
right?
just that guy.
It was cause and effect for that character. You know, if they showed him at the beginning, pull the gun, so there's got to be resolution for that guy later on. Otherwise, what's the point in having him? You know,
Yeah. Well,
that would be extraneous information. So
could have had
plus, you know,
could have had Rocket kill him when they raided the
it's
he shot
it's
Rocket's son.
it's the kind of the nature of the beast. You got to have the stuff in there that makes the audience be filled with dread and anticipation. You got to amp up that anxiety at every possible moment. So I
Or
think
even better, have Rocket come across him at the raid of the city, and Rocket actually spare him, showing that the ape has more compassion than the human.
And
then
then
when,
have the
when he
human
walks away, have
kill
some
him.
other random chimp shoot him.
No, I thought the
this much
scary.
thought, Glenn.
No, I thought that was really scary with the baby going over to the lockbox that had the gun that they
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
supposed to have.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
feel
yeah,
like that
that was-
kind of was why that guy was set up to be for that particular scene, because that to me I was like, shit, they went there about children and guns. You know, I couldn't believe that they went that far. Like, people were scared for that baby. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I think that might have been.
That scene was actually a bit intense, which surprised me because I didn't expect the scene. You know, I didn't expect it to go quite that way. So, like
I mean,
you
that
said,
was almost ripped from the headlines, you know. So I
Yeah.
really think that might have been why they kept that guy around for that particular scene, which was very strong.
Fucking
Again,
babies causing all the
very
wars.
modern sociopolitical overtones.
Yeah,
going
It
there.
really was.
I think the film wanted to really take some risk when they were writing it.
at least a little bit because that's what the original, you know, kind of did, making its statements. So,
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, like the old Planet of the Apes were around the blaxploitation movie times, and
Yep.
you know, like, think about all the stuff that was going on around that time. They were really kind of reflective of the era that they were made in.
sure.
Yeah, I
Tony,
think more of my anger is directed at the fact that the average movie-going public is really stupid. So they really do have to. They are. They really are.
I don't think they're. I don't. I
Or it's
just
not
they
that
don't.
they're
They don't
stupid.
watch as many. They
I
don't
don't-
watch as many movies as
It's
we
not that
do.
they're stupid. It's that they've been fed so much crap that they need to have it fed to them. Otherwise, they're not going to get it because they don't get the complex stuff for the most part.
Well, and they're not going
Because-
there.
because-
They're not
because
going
they're
there
not-
for it.
Yeah, and you know, but it's the fact that they have to. The foreshadowing has to be. It can't be foreshadowing. It has to be back to the face.
right?
You know, of what's going to happen next, because otherwise people are going to go, well, wait a minute, why did they kill that guy? You know, because it's like, really, because of what he did in scene in Act 2. What are you talking about? Really? How did you? Instead, you have to have the guy go, I'm going to kill you, and then in Act 3, he killed him. So it's like, you know, you have to have that. It has to be spelled out for a lot of people, and that's what makes me mad is that so many movies have lost. There's less subtlety in movies where everything has to be a bit more obvious because you need the box office.
Right.
If you're gonna make the money, you have to appeal to a broader group, and the broader group is used to having those things given to them. They don't have to work for anything, and it's been for a long time. It's been your mass movies are not something you have to work for. It's just something you go in, you're given your steak, you eat it, you leave, and it's not the I have to cook my steak. What? So I mean, if movies were food, and a lot of movies I like, people would starve to death.
Yeah. I think we'd see them more, the movies you're talking about, if people wanted them, but they don't. Because you speak with your wallet, and they've definitely spoken time and time again.
I know, and it's
Smart or different movies or creative movies usually do suffer at the box office. I'm going to put one out there, a little bit side topic, I know, but for me, there's a film that most people hated, and it was called Cloud Atlas. And
I love that movie.
And for me, it was like the biggest budgeted independent film ever because of the way it was directed, handled, and written, but people didn't like it. One, for the 3-hour, but the other, you kind of had to pay attention to the film in order to follow everything that's going on because there were like 6 different storylines. So I get what you're saying, Glenn. Yeah, I think the movie audience. I don't think Hollywood has been fair to the movie audience And it does, many movies do suffer, but I felt Apes at least a little bit was trying to give it at least a little bit more and a little bit more thought than spoon feeding, though there was still some of that in the film.
Oh yeah, they definitely still had a story and they had a plot that they for the most part stuck to.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just go and random explosions.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
Robots and balls. They didn't have.
There's a lot more space in it too between action sequences and things happening than your average. Because I do reviews professionally for the last 5 years, and I do go see a lot of that stuff, and so it's real easy for me to compare this against some of the other ones I've had to go watch. So I really think I was surprised at the amount of it's a lot of character development.
There's a huge
there's a
amount
lot of character development in this one. I'm sorry I laughed, but it sounded like some of the movies that you are forced to watch is just torture for you.
Well, it's not that. It's just you see so many of them in a row, you start to forget which one did what, and especially it's kind of and. It gets a little confusing sometimes.
It gets torturous, yes.
Yeah. And Tony, you said you finally have a question, sir, that you'd like to ask?
This popped in my head for some reason, but why do you think they went with the direction of not having James Franco in the sequel?
Oh, well, that's a good question. You would have thought maybe they would have worked it in that he happened to be immune, but I think maybe they didn't do that because it would have seemed too coincidental. Oh, the guy who was working closest with this stuff just happens to also be immune.
Maybe. I think it would have given them too much of an in with Caesar as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just don't want a big star screwing up the whole putting the humans aside thing,
That too. I think that too is probably part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But also just the fact that it's like, we have to negotiate with the apes. Oh yeah, I know Caesar. I raised him. It loses a lot of that tension.
Yeah, we go see each other every so often.
Because if James Franco had been there and they had said, you're taking asshole, he's like, I'm not taking asshole, he shot me.
But he's probably still alive, though, because he's in some hyperbaric chamber from getting all the money he got from inventing the camcorder that the battery lasts 10 years.
Yeah,
I was actually questioning that. How did that video camera even
still work? When you first see it, you can see the cord.
It's plugged in.
It's still plugged in.
It
that was
charged
awesome.
because they got the hydro.
Because that's the first thing when I saw the camcorder and I heard it click, like power on, I'm like, really? And then when he picked it up, you just get a quick glimpse of the cord still attached.
Yes.
We should just be all glad that it wasn't all a found footage movie. All shot by Caesar. Close-ups of bananas.
The part that got me is that Gary Oldman still had his iPad plugged in, like waiting for the power to come back on.
We'd all be doing that.
I'm gonna have this sitting here.
10 years with the iPhone staring at it. That'll be the cult that they find in the next one. Yeah, it'll be like this underground group of people waiting for Wi-Fi instead of a bomb. They're all pale, white corneas.
Someday the Wi-Fi will come.
Just to sing, someday my Wi-Fi will come.
I wonder what the humans and the apes even eat anyways. I noticed there hasn't even been a scene where they even eat him.
Well, I didn't mind that because that would have taken away from the story. That wasn't really the way they establish it. They're successful enough, I think, to where you can assume they figured out some way to eat something. They could have thrown that in there, but I think
they ate James Franco.
They ate James Franco.
There you go. Question answered.
For 10 years, they freeze-dried James Franco.
Franco-American. He was made of meatballs.
Right away.
Wow.
Koba ate James Franco, and he never told Caesar.
Wow.
Thickens.
So
I love our conversations.
speaking of Gary Oldman, Did anybody else think that was a huge waste of talent?
Oh yeah, that did not need to be Gary Oldman.
Oh my God.
I don't think they needed Gary Oldman in that role at all. I think they pulled him in because of the name. Don't get me wrong, I love Gary Oldman. I'll see him in anything.
Let's get a guy who's gonna stick his foot in his mouth in an interview right before the movie comes out. Can we do that?
Like he had more of a purpose in RoboCop than in this film.
Yeah, he did.
That's true. That's true. He was awesome in RoboCop.
Would you say, Colin, that he was wasted in this film?
Overall, yes. I haven't seen the new RoboCop yet, so now I'm curious.
Oh, I did it. I gave it a good review actually. I was quite disturbed by the new RoboCop. It was like nightmarish. I hope kids don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't wanna say he's wasted. Like, yeah, the film would be no different if he wasn't in it. But I think for what he was given for the film, I thought he did a really good job at it.
It was star power, like the one instance of star power.
Well, and
honestly, when you think about it, if he wasn't in the film, that bomb wouldn't have exploded at the end.
It's true.
So he's like Indiana Jones. It would have all still happened without him.
Yes.
Yeah, with the big star, it gives you reason to think they won't blow him up.
well, that's what kind of surprised me at the end with him. But I think also
it obviously wasn't that big a bomb because the other human survived standing 10 feet away from it.
No, he got knocked into the trench and the flames went over him.
Because that's how it.
That's how it works.
That's how
You guys notice way more stuff than me. I must see way too many movies. I don't even remember that.
I see a lot of movies too. But
Let's not see.
I don't know. I
guess
guess I just don't like to pick apart too much of things.
Yeah, I must not see a lot of movies because I'm not noticing half this stuff until now.
Oh, great! We're just ruining the movie for Kaka. I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Next time. Oh, there's that cord.
Damn.
It's all like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, worst movie ever. Now, thanks a lot.
No, I think they put Gary Oldman in there for like the way you get him in some of these other movies where they could have gone without him, but let's just face it, out of the collection of other actors they had in the human cast, Gary Oldman will probably be the biggest name and the most common name out of that whole group, in all honesty. I mean, we watch enough films so you recognize the other names, but if you want a name on the poster to get someone interested, you get at least one veteran actor or character in there to help kind of ground the cast enough so people will be interested enough. Because if you had all these other names up there and not a really identifiable name, you lose the people really won't get into the humans. I mean, humans are a side note anyway. At least with Gary Oldman in there, the humans are a little more interesting. Because it's Gary Oldman. You're sitting there watching Gary Oldman going, he's eating every scene he's in, whatever little scene he's in. I mean, he's doing almost his Commissioner Gordon, though.
Absolutely.
Kerry Russell's a pretty big name, too. I just don't think she catches, like, the audience's attention as much as Gary Oldman does.
Right.
Her fans are probably the Apes fans, I don't think, though.
No.
Hey, is anyone surprised that Judy Greer actually did Caesar's wife, like motion capture?
It was cool because it was like a wordless performance. She nailed it. Yeah,
I know.
Very impressive.
I didn't know that until I looked it up on IMDb.
Mm-hmm. There's my question, I guess, for everyone is, I think, and I know Academy Awards really don't mean a whole lot or anything, but I really think that moving forward, showing what you can do with motion capture actors and how you're actually capturing their real performance, even though it's CGI. Do you think that the people in general for acknowledgement might need to change their way of thought on the motion capture performances?
Yeah.
Going forward, I think we're going to have more of them.
Yeah, you start to see it happening because when we were pulling wire photos for my, because I am publishing a review on it this week, the AP photo captions, when it showed the apes, it would have the actor's name in the parentheses for the ape characters, you know? And you see that and you're like, yep, that's where it's going, because what did they give the Oscar to? Heavy makeup roles. Well,
Yeah.
what is the new makeup? It's CG. Is really no different. You've got an artist putting it on who's got a skill in its own right, but ultimately it's that performance that we give the award to. So yeah, it's gonna happen. It'll definitely happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the rest of you? Any thoughts on that? Andy,
I think absolutely, because when you look at some other mediums, look at theater.
Mhm.
Because I've had people who disagree with me on this, because they'll say, well, there's so much more that goes into the acting, their facial expressions and their emotions, and I'm like, theater, unless you're like in the first 3 rows, you can't see shit for the actor's face.
Yeah.
But they still got people winning Tony Awards and all that type of stuff, so it's not just, there's so much more to it than just simply how you look. There's definitely a delivery to it. Watch some anime that's dubbed, and you can see a huge difference between good voice acting and bad voice acting.
Yeah, if they'll nominate Robert Downey Jr. for playing a black person, they'll definitely, they'll definitely have a motion capture.
Well, I mean,
People will
Melissa
accept
McCarthy could get
I'm a dude
nominated.
trying to be a dude who's another dude.
3 6 Mafia won an Oscar, so
What happened?
3 6 Mafia, a rap group, won an Oscar.
Yeah,
so,
anything. they need to adjust, I think, because Andy Serkis, out of all these characters, you've got a lot of characters in this film. Andy Serkis, I know everybody's praised him. He deserves it. This film really is about Caesar, and if you don't sell that character, you lose your film entirely. And I thought his performance was fantastic.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if he doesn't get an Oscar someday in the next 10 years, he'll get one of those lifetime achievement ones
Yep.
when it's over with.
That's what I was just going to say. He'll get one of those lifetime achievements, because by that point he'll be in every movie.
But
Yeah.
It's Godzilla starring Andy Serkis. Pacific Rim 4 starring Andy Serkis.
just Serkis. He does the
Romeo
most.
and Juliet starring
circus-sized.
X-Men Days of Future Past.
Circus
starring
du Soleil.
That's Circus.
Charlie's Angels 5.
I like that. Circus.
Transformers 4, Circus Rises.
And you have Optimus Prime riding on a robot elephant.
Oh God. Oh, you just hurt my brain now, Tony.
Performed by
Thank you.
Andy Serkis.
Performed by-
Things turn into a circus jerk.
Oh, jeez.
But outside of Andy Serkis, I will say the other actors that they had performing the motion capture did very well too. Though that's what surprised me. That is the standout performance. But Koba, the guy playing Koba, that's a guy mocap. That wasn't Serkis doing someone else as well. Serkis didn't do all the apes.
No, I would look to see in the future some bigger name actors wanting to do motion capture roles
Sure.
in films because of this. I think that would happen. Somebody's like, "Hey man, let me get Koba next time." Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it will be a selling point for the movie, motion captured Robert Downey Jr. and so forth.
Well, and I think the character of Maurice was actually performed by a female, if I remember reading that.
It's not Judy Greer, is she? Because she was in the film too as Caesar's wife. Is that her, Maurice?
No, I think it was another. I would have to pull it up here because I know.
O'Donnell or
If that's true, then that's really awesome, because if they won't give women more lead roles, they can give them,
Give them
male
motion
characters
capture.
to play.
baby step, I guess.
Yeah.
Quick, everyone, let's research this shit.
Is this
I-
a live Google?
Yeah, we're all googling. Suddenly, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes page crashes because. Why is all these people searching? Yeah, Maurice was played by a Karen Konoval,
Sweet.
a woman, and it's the Maurice character, and I love Maurice, and yeah, I thought that was a really well done, well acted character.
That's cool.
So that is cool. That did happen. So yeah, motion capture. You're right. Other actors in that, I think will start wanting to step up as well. We have one question here tonight from our missing crew member Joe Caldwell. He's not feeling well.
What up,
Hope he
Joe?
feels better. But Joe did send us a question, and I think this is a good question for the final question of the evening is, who trained all the horses?
That's an excellent question, Joe.
Colin, who trained...
it's like even when the apes escaped at the end of Rise, they all of a sudden found horses.
Yeah, Colin, who trained the horses?
Again, some sort of 80s, training montage that could have been
80s training montage.
80s training montage. This didn't have enough of those.
I think Sylvester Stallone trained him.
They had little wheels on them, but they CGI'd it out.
I feel like the orangutans or something could have done that. I mean, there were chimps that were doctors and nurses, so, I mean...
It's true. True.
Why weren't they using those horses while hunting, man? That'd make chasing deer a lot easier.
They didn't think that far yet. They're still learning spears, so
Glenn will notice that they were not on horses this time. Okay, next movie. Glenn needs to not notice that.
So,
and the third film, the apes are gonna ride on fishes underwater.
I hope they're in cars. Honestly, I hope they're in cars and using computers and TV. Because in the original Apes novel, they were a lot more advanced, and they just couldn't. They didn't want to go that. Either they couldn't afford it or something for that original Apes movie. But I would love for that if it's a trilogy. I would love for the next one for them to just be them using iPads and all that stuff.
Robotic elephants.
Yeah, right.
It'd be great.
That's actually a good point. You bring that up, Andrew, because they did establish power to the city again. So, and they're in the city with power now. They could discover how to use that.
Yeah, it could open with like the Starbucks and a guy getting mad and throwing his doo-doo because he got his coffee on and throws crap and starts masturbating in Starbucks, and they're just like, that's Jim. He's always doing that when he doesn't get his cappuccino right.
I will say there's one thing with these movies in general, with the whole how humans devolve into just pretty much basically caveman level savages, is that it definitely shows the heavy Western influence and the heavy Western idea of how the world is, because losing all technology, how much effect does it really have on the average person in the plains of Mongolia?
Yeah.
Or in a lot of the African people where they wouldn't devolve at all.
Well, it's the white. It's when they show
we're fucking set.
When they show dystopia in these American movies, it's often like the white dystopia or the privileged dystopia. So you gotta kind of keep that in mind, because the people that are average person that's going to see it, that's their dystopia. It's not the universal one.
That's beautiful, Tony. Thank you.
I always view these movies as this is North America, and because they haven't developed sea travel, I'm thinking like over in Africa, there's Africans just sitting there, they're still sitting there, living their normal lives practically like nothing changed, and just be like, haven't seen those UN do-gooders in about 50 years. This is pretty nice.
Do-gooders don't come around no more.
But that's why the Transformers movies are more of a worldwide hit, because everyone can kind of agree giant robots would suck.
Yeah.
Even the guy getting his Wi-Fi in the caves is like, yeah, no, I don't want that. No, do robots, no.
Yeah, you're thinking some native, in the jungle's like, apes. You just ate one yesterday.
Yeah.
See what the deal is.
Yeah, they made even a point of that, though, that the one guy, when they were around the campfire, was saying, well, this is why they're more advanced than us. They don't need this. They don't need this. He's like, the problem I had with that whole dialogue is what you said. I'm like, well, you know what? I don't really need that either to survive. Yes, it's nice, but I know how to make a fire. I don't need electricity necessarily, to survive.
Yeah, the people sitting in the mall multiplex watching it are going to be like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They, slurp icy, check phone. Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Whereas you got guys like Ted Nugent who are like, bring it on. Let the world fucking end. I'm set.
Where will we get cheese for
Someone
our
won't go,
nachos?
you lost power to your iPad? Oh, I just lost my family to disease. But, okay, first world problems.
Hey, plot twist.
Exactly.
I'm the one that trained the horses.
Oh, you play Tony trained the horse.
Sweet.
We've got our answer there. Way to go, Tony.
Uses
Way to
tiger
go.
power to the
Thank
maximum.
you.
I was gonna say that tiger power.
Thank you.
So, any final thoughts on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? Do you think that this will, say, in 10 years, hold up and maybe be considered a newer classic, or do you think it will still fade away with the other blockbusters that we've seen over the past couple of years? Colin, why don't you go first, buddy?
Final thoughts. Definitely go and check it out, you guys, if you actually want a good, fun summer movie that has a story in it. I'm sorry, Bayformers, just not a story. But, I don't know if it'll hold up as a classic. Overall, I think for this series, though, I think it is a high point, but I don't think it's going to hold up against a film like The Dark Knight or one of those really big blockbusters.
Sure. Don, what about you? Final thoughts, and do you think in 10 years it'll be considered maybe a classic similar to the originals, or?
I think that's a big maybe. I think it'll depend a lot on how they finish the franchise. They're the new modernization of the franchise. So maybe.
Sure. And Glenn, what about you, sir?
No.
No. All right.
Just
No. This is nothing against this movie. I think that the culture has just shifted enough where you don't really get many films that become those classics now.
Right.
It's not like because there's so many movies put out, and there's so many that they all blend together now, because everything's so grand.
Right.
And I mean, if there are classics, this one would have a better shot. But I think a lot of that, it's got to be something that really stands out as something really different for it to achieve that level. And I'm talking something not like a cult classic that is just you got the weird people like us who love it, but I'm talking like
Yes.
one where it really stands the test of time, where lots of people look back and it still holds up.
Sure.
In the way that like say a Star Wars or a Jaws does. I don't think you're going to have films like those anymore for the most part that are really going to hold up 30, 40, 50 years from now, where people are going to still look back and go, oh God, I remember the first time I saw Jaws. It's a lot of people be like, oh, I think I saw I think I saw it in the theater. I don't know. I might have had it on Blu-ray, but I mean, all I have now is Holodisc. So
Glenn.
Hollow disc, yes. Andrew, what about you? Final thoughts on the Dawn of Planet of the Apes, and do you think it'll be a classic maybe in 10 years, or is Glenn right that maybe we just have too many films and there's no real classic anymore?
I can't. I don't think I have the right perspective for it. I can't see it as its own movie. I see it as part of a legacy of what I feel is the most consistently good film franchise in history. None of the directors tried to strike out against and do their own thing with the films. None of them really tried to top the other ones. They all it's bizarre how reverent they all seem to be for the ones that came before, and the consideration they all seem to have for a franchise that isn't like known as one of the big hit blockbuster ones, because they weren't the big money makers. And so it's kind of strange that this isn't like the witchcraft of sci-fi or something like that. It's actually quite consistent. Each and every one of the movies is great. And if somebody's gonna buy like a 10-disc set, in a decade from now or 2 decades from now, they're all gonna fit together if everybody kind of sticks to what worked. And that's what's to me amazing about the new one is it's got ideas that were great that were done in movies in the 70s. It really hasn't tried to break the mold, which is weird because you think about like franchises that I enjoy more kind of on the whole, like a Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or stuff like that. None of them are as consistent, not even the Final Destinations or anything. And
Right.
I like all of the Apes movies. I like them all, and I like this one.
Cool. Tony, what about you, sir? Final thoughts on Dawn, and do you think you'll be considering it a classic in 10 years?
I definitely would so because, it's a summer blockbuster, but, the whole focus isn't on the action. The whole focus isn't on just visuals. Of course, you need the visuals to tell the story for a movie like this, but the most important thing about this film is that it actually had a story. There was a lot of heart and a lot of passion into writing and directing the story. Matt Reeves obviously knew what he was doing when directing this film. There were character-driven moments. There were moments that could get you teared up a little. So I think in terms of emotions, tensions, writing, direction, cinematography, visuals, performances, all of the great stuff, and considering it's one of my favorite films of the year and personally one of the best sequels I've ever seen, period, I would definitely consider it a classic. And if 10 years from now someone told me that they've never seen Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I would just straight up say, see that shit, dude, because it is fucking awesome. Like, I really love the movie personally. It's one of my favorite films of the year, and I would definitely love to see it in the theaters again if I have a chance, and I'm definitely going to buy it when it first comes to DVD. So I really love the movie.
Cool. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight on this late Monday night for discussing Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It definitely gave me some perspective. Everybody loved all the opinions and stuff. Hey, why don't we now take this time to do the pimping? And Colin, go ahead first, sir. What would you like? Where can we find you and your stuff? And let the Spoiler Room listeners, the people we have out there, know where you are.
So you guys can find me on my YouTube channel, Marvel DC Fans Reviews, and on Twitter at MDC Reviews. And yeah, I'm also on just different Facebook groups. We Live Film Facebook page, Cinema Discussions, and BlueTube Community.
Awesome. And Dawn, pimp your blog, please.
You can find me at intheaudience.net.
Awesome. Great blog. Go check it out. Great review there from Collins as well. Some great stuff up there. And Glenn, what about you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at Naked Hobo. You can also find me on the B-Movie Bunker on YouTube, as well as find me on this podcast, as well as Film Jerks and Astro Radio Z.
Yes, we've lived and watched witchcraft together. So my
check out the 7.5 hour epic podcast.
Yes, a podcast that was 7.5 hours long, where it's all the episodes where we talked about the witchcraft franchise. No one has done it quite like that. Glenn's my witchcraft brother, man.
I'm not sure if we should be proud of that.
I
You're
don't
awesome,
know either.
Glenn. You're awesome.
Andrew, what about you, sir?
Oh, I have some films on Amazon On Demand. The newest one is Pajama Nightmare. I've also got one called Mondo Gonzo, one called Fake Blood, and the new one, The Underground Cinema, will be on around mid-September.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. And Mr. Estrada, rounding out the evening, where can we find your stuff, sir?
All right, I have a lot to say here. You can find me at 22 Tiger Dude, 2 2s and Tiger Dude lowercase. Same for Instagram at 22 Tiger Dude. For Twitter, it's at Tiger Dude 22, and for Facebook, it is 22 Tiger Dude, where you can see all of my tiger power from there.
Awesome. Fantastic. And yes, and you can catch the Spoiler Room on iTunes, folks. We are on there, as well as Stitcher Radio. We have 4 episodes. This will be our 5th one up there. They seem to be doing good. People are listening to them, from what I can tell. So we appreciate everyone listening in on our little podcast where we talk films. You can find my stuff, youtube.com/specialmark for the final cut. I also do stuff on We Live Film. I am host of Horror Thursdays there. If you're looking for insight on horror movies, I bring you anything from the big big screen horror films to the very obscure micro budget, whatever I feel like reviewing for Horror Thursdays, I bring to the community to kind of educate people on maybe some of the indie films they haven't seen. And, of course, I'm on the podcast as well, this one, Asteroid is the and Film Jerks. All of that you can find on specialmarkproductions.com. There's links for my stuff, links for everybody here in the spoiler room tonight. You can find links to their stuff there. And we appreciate everybody chiming in. Hope you've enjoyed this venture through Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And with the spoiler room, remember, folks, the conversation is always fresh, even if we do spoil the movies.